Have you ever heard someone described as Machiavellian? It usually means they're cunning, manipulative, and maybe a little ruthless. But is that fair to the man himself, Niccolò Machiavelli? Today, we're diving deep into the life and mind of one of history's most misunderstood thinkers to find out what he really stood for. Was he a teacher of evil, or a clear-eyed realist just telling it like it is? Let's find out. Niccolò Machiavelli was born in Florence, Italy, in 1469. This wasn't just any time or place, it was the heart of the Renaissance. Florence was a bustling city-state, a hub of art, culture, and intense political drama. The powerful Medici family had been exiled, and a new republic was born. It was in this dynamic and often chaotic environment that Machiavelli came of age. In 1498, at the age of 29, Machiavelli landed a major job. He became a senior official and diplomat for the Florentine Republic. This wasn't a desk job. For 14 years, he was on the front lines of politics. He traveled across Europe, meeting with kings, popes, and powerful military leaders like Cesare Borgia. He wasn't just reading about power, he was seeing it in action, up close and personal. He saw leaders succeed, and he saw them fail spectacularly. He learned that the world of politics wasn't governed by noble ideals, but by cold, hard realities. These experiences became the raw material for all his later writings. He was essentially a political scientist before the term even existed, studying power like a biologist studies an organism. But then, everything changed. In 1512, the political winds shifted again. The Medici family, with the help of Spanish troops, returned to power in Florence and dismantled the Republic. As a high-ranking official of the old government, Machiavelli was immediately a suspect. He was fired from his post, accused of conspiracy, arrested, imprisoned, and even tortured. Can you imagine? One day you're a respected diplomat, the next you're a political prisoner. After his release, he was banished from the city he loved and forced into exile at his small family farm. It was in this state of forced retirement, feeling frustrated and powerless, that Machiavelli picked up his pen and wrote his most famous work, The Prince. This book wasn't written for us, the general public. It was a desperate job application. He dedicated it to the new Medici ruler, Lorenzo de' Medici, hoping to prove his worth and win back a position in government. He was essentially saying, "Look, you're in charge now. I know how power works. I can help you keep it." So, what does The Prince actually say? This is where the controversy begins. Machiavelli argues that a ruler, or a prince, must be willing to do whatever it takes to secure and maintain power. His goal isn't to be a good person, but an effective leader. This is the core of his realism. He famously asks whether it is better for a ruler to be loved or feared. His answer? Ideally both. But if you have to choose, it's much safer to be feared. Love, he said, is fickle. People will turn on you. But fear is based on the threat of punishment, and that's something a ruler can control. He also introduces the idea that the ends justify the means. Now, Machiavelli never wrote that exact phrase, but it perfectly captures his philosophy. If a ruler needs to lie, break promises, or even use violence to protect the state and maintain order, then so be it. For Machiavelli, the stability and survival of the state were the ultimate goals. A good ruler might have to do things that would be considered morally wrong for an ordinary person. He wasn't saying it's good to be cruel, but that sometimes cruelty used swiftly and decisively can prevent much greater bloodshed later on. He pointed to Cesare Borgia, a ruthless but effective leader he had observed, as an example of someone who brought order to a chaotic region through sheer force and cunning. This was shocking stuff, especially at the time. Traditional philosophy, influenced by thinkers like Plato and the Church, taught that rulers should be virtuous, just, merciful, and honest. Machiavelli threw all that out the window. He separated politics from conventional morality and religion. He wasn't interested in how a prince should ideally behave. He was interested in what actually works in the real world. This is why many people saw him as a devil, a teacher of tyrants. His book was even placed on the Catholic Church's index of prohibited books. The term Machiavellian quickly became an insult. But is that the whole story? If we only read The Prince, we get a very narrow view of Machiavelli. In another one of his major works, Discourses on Livy, he shows a completely different side. Here, he champions the idea of a republic, a government by the people, as the best and most stable form of government. He argues that republics are stronger, more adaptable, and less corrupt than monarchies. He believed that the people, as a collective, were wiser and more constant than any single prince. So how do we reconcile these two Machiavellis? The one who advises princes on how to be tyrants, and the one who praises republics. This is the great debate among scholars. Some argue that The Prince was a satirical work, designed to expose the dark methods of rulers, not to endorse them. A sort of warning to the public. Others believe he was simply a pragmatist. He wrote The Prince for a specific situation, a new ruler trying to establish control, while his true preference for a stable and established state was always a republic. Perhaps the most compelling interpretation is that Machiavelli was, above all, an Italian patriot. He lived in a time when Italy was divided, weak, and constantly being invaded by foreign powers like France and Spain. He saw his homeland torn apart by war and political infighting. His ultimate dream was to see a strong leader emerge who could unite Italy and drive out the foreign armies. So the ruthless advice in The Prince might have been a desperate plea for a savior, someone with the strength and will to do the dirty work necessary to create a unified and independent Italy. The end goal wasn't tyranny for its own sake, but the creation of a stable state that could eventually become a strong republic. So, was Machiavelli evil? I don't think so. He was a product of his violent and unpredictable times. He was a political realist who wasn't afraid to look at the dark side of human nature and power. He didn't invent amoral politics. He just described what he saw all around him. He forces us to ask uncomfortable questions. Can you be a good person and an effective political leader at the same time? Is it sometimes necessary to choose the lesser of two evils for the greater good? These questions are just as relevant today as they were 500 years ago. Machiavelli's legacy is complex. He showed us that politics is a messy business, often driven by self-interest, fear, and the desire for power. But he also held up the ideal of a republic where citizens actively participate in their own governance. He wasn't a monster. He was a brilliant and deeply patriotic observer of the human condition, who gave us a timeless, if unsettling, look into the machinery of power. What do you think? Was Machiavelli a teacher of evil or a misunderstood realist? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into history and philosophy, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more content. See you next time.